Okay, good evening, everyone. It is 8 p.m. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Madam Secretary, will you please do the roll call?
I will. There we go. Can we all mute if we're not speaking, please? Thank you. Rich Maston,
Here.
Russell Webb,
Here.
Kathy Calhoun,
Here.
and Rachel Anger is present. Sharon Roy. No Sharon?
Not yet.
Thank you. Pam Moser?
Here.
Region 3 is Paula Noble.
Here.
John Kaloa,
Here.
Mike Shelton,
Here.
Kathy Dunham,
Here.
Kenny Curley,
Here.
Yukiko Hayata,
Here.
Pam Delabar,
Here.
George Eigenhauser,
Here.
Mark Hannon,
Here.
Carol Krasnowski,
Here.
Melanie Morgan,
Here.
and one more director at large.
Annette.
Annette Wilson.
Here.
Thank you for the prompt. From central office, we have Eileen Tartaglia,
Here.
Shelley Perkins.
She's just coming into the meeting. I
I'm
just
here.
called.
Oh, okay, got Shelley. James Simbro.
I'm here.
From the ID, we have Matt Wong.
Morning, hi, you.
Morning. Eva Chen.
Not here yet.
I'll circle back to Sharon Roy.
She just came into the meeting.
Okay. So Sharon, as soon as you're on, just announce yourself, please.
And
I'm here.
Great. And Desiree Bobby is here, our marketing director.
Yep, here.
And Eva Chen is not on the call at this time. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is there anyone who is on the meeting as a panelist whose name I have neglected to mention? Okay, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Rachel. I believe everyone has received the pre-noticed agenda. Does anybody have any changes or additions to the pre-noticed agenda? Seeing no pre-noticed, or I'm sorry, seeing no changes or requests for changes, may I have a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Delabar seconds.
Thank you. Any objections to the pre-noticed agenda? Seeing no objections, the agenda is approved. Rachel, please do the ratification of online motions.
Unmute.
Rachel, you're on mute.
I know I'm bouncing back and forth between 4 screens trying to get my report up because I'm not seeing it there. I apologize. So we had some pre-noticed motions that you see there before you on the screen. I would like to move for ratification of those motions that we voted online.
Carol
Sure.
seconds.
Okay, Carol seconds. Rachel made the motion. Rachel, we're doing these all at once, correct?
Correct.
Okay, any objections to the ratification of the motions online? Seeing no objections, they have carried.
Thank you, everyone.
Rachel, do you have anything else?
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. Melanie, please do the judging program.
Super, thank you. I know there's a lot here, but most of it's for information only, just to keep the board up to date with what's happening. And unless there's anything you all want to pull out for more detail, I won't open it up for discussion. The only thing I wanted to point out in open session that we had was just a quick recap on the handling school update, which I think went very, very well. So far, that most of the feedback I've had is very positive, and we certainly learned some good lessons from the exercise that I think we can put to good use moving forward to make it better than it was at the first go around. I don't have an action item there, but moving forward, the one issue that the board needs to address is how to promote the program. I'd asked that the notice be put out in the CFA News, but I was told that that wasn't appropriate. So then the recommendation was that I asked our regional directors to put the notice out onto the regional list. To my knowledge, only 3 of our regional directors did so. And while the program may in fact benefit an individual show and as such not be appropriate for the CFA News, it is actually a CFA sponsored event. So as such, to me, it's important to disseminate the information and details in a timely manner, which I don't think affects the Belgium test because we have plenty of time there to get the word out. But moving forward, I think it's something that we might want to address. And I understand that we're planning on creating some venues for official CFA News updates that would hold into, like a CFA blog or something. But barring that, I'm hopeful that if we do move forward with this idea, that we'll have some sort of mechanism for informing the public about it. And other than that, I think I've given you a feel for where we are in terms of the test and in the forms that we used. And any questions, I'm open for them.
Okay, Pam Delabar.
Just one, it was put out under our regional Facebook, our 2 regional Facebook pages right now. Just a correction, Chris Merritt under your guest judges is a tier 1 and Janice Christensen is not.
Got it, thank you. Wait a minute, what was the last name, Pam? Janice?
Janice Christensen.
Got it, thank you.
Mark Hannon.
Why was it not appropriate to send out a CFA News notice about this?
Go ahead, Elaine.
Melanie had contacted me about that, and I discussed it with Teresa Kyber, and we felt it was really specific to one show, and that it could possibly be interpreted as encouraging entries for the show, and we didn't feel that was appropriate to single out one show. So, I mean, that can change in the future, but that was the thought at the time.
I would encourage doing that in the future. We need to get the word out about these things, and if it picks up a couple entries, that's a positive, you know.
Okay.
Melanie.
Yeah, following up on what Mark said, I mean, I was a little flummoxed when I hit that wall. And my feeling is that any club that allows us to do the breed handling, it's a CFA sponsored event, but the club is certainly giving their resources and time. I'm very grateful to Garden State for allowing me to stay with Sharon Roy, who they were sponsoring there, and which helped CFA in terms of costs. But if it benefits the club, then that gives some incentive for them to allow us to do this. And this is a program that in the end will benefit all of CFA, at least that's the hope.
Do any board members have any objections to posting this on the CFA News? Aline, would you communicate? Kathy Calhoun, you got your hand up?
Do we need a motion?
No, I don't think so. And we'll start to post them. If that's the direction we want to go in, that's fine.
Thank you.
Aline, I didn't see anybody object to the question that I posed. Would you touch base with Teresa Kiger if she's not in the audience on this and inform her that the board is agreeable to allowing this to occur?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, great. Melanie?
Yes.
Do you have anything else you would like to report?
I am certainly willing to answer any questions or discuss anything, but I am done with what I have for open session.
Does anybody have any questions for Melanie?
Do I get
Okay.
ice cream, Rich?
Melanie, that is the quickest report you have ever done in CFA board history.
Ice cream, you owe me ice cream?
Yes, I owe you ice cream when I
Thank
see
you.
you in person. You are
Thank you.
correct. Thank you very much. Melanie, that was 5 minutes.
Wow,
If we're keeping track, and not that we're on a speed time here.
only with me.
Yes, only with you. Great job. Thank you very much. Aline, we're going to go to central office.
I only have one item on my report. It's something, it's a big deal, even though it's just one item, but it is the announcement of the CFA official discussion group on Facebook that is scheduled to debut tomorrow, August 3rd, probably around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. I've outlined here what the purpose is, what the goals are, the rules that everybody will be asked to accept before they're brought into the group. It'll give us another option for posting information such as the handling rings that Melanie was just talking about, and other type of news that's really very current. So if there's any questions, Desiree is here. She's been very instrumental in getting it going, and we'll be inviting all board members and be asking you to invite all your friends. That's all I have.
Does anybody have any questions? Rachel?
I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank those people that have been the administrators of Facebook posts that Facebook pages that represent our association and have allowed our constituents to express their views publicly up until this official discussion group is launched.
Thank you, Rachel, for making that. Does anybody have any questions for Desiree? Okay, so I want to thank Desiree and Aline and Kathy Calhoun and Mark Hannon in being involved in meeting with Aline, Desiree, myself, in putting this together and making it a reality. I also want to thank all the moderators who have accepted being involved in the official discussion group. I want to encourage people to join. I look forward to the respectful, positive, and productive discussions. And I'm sure everybody can learn from what will be posted on a daily basis. There's a lot of questions that will come our way, and I think it's going to be a very enjoyable and productive way of communicating to people who have the answers. Let's see, as Rachel, or as Aline mentioned, it will debut tomorrow sometime in the morning. So great job to everybody who's involved, and thank you all again to the moderators. Aline, do you have anything else?
No, I have nothing else.
Okay, thank you. James, IT.
Good evening. Nothing to add on what I've already added on here. If there's any questions, we had a really good visit from Sonnet while they were here for 4 days this week, or actually it was last week. Or no, what's today? Tuesday. It was last week. We went over every single thing that they needed to go over. And we got to talk to them about some additional stuff just while they were here. It's great to be able to face-to-face. You get a lot, as we know, more accomplished when you have that. If there's any questions on anything, be entertained.
Mark Hannon.
Well, what's the status on the ability to select colors when we register a litter?
The genetics, that's one of the things we were able to work on a little bit with Jeremy while I was here, trying to understand the logic that Steve Merritt had worked with them on, because you know, he was much more familiar with that, so we had a bit of a learning curve on ours. We think we've identified possibly one or two additional, I call them logic layers, to try to get it working like we expect it to. So I don't really have a timeline update on that. It depends. We're going to talk. I think we need to talk with Steve Merritt some more, and we're begun talks with a couple other people of trying to get some ideas how to integrate some additional logic in there to, you know, to narrow the choices of colors.
James, is the testing completed at this point in time, or are you going to continue to test while you add the logic?
We're gonna have to continue the test, because anytime you add any additional logic or change things, you have the potential of breaking something else. So yeah, you almost kind of start from, not really from scratch, but you kind of have to repeat the same things over and over to make sure you haven't affected some other area.
Okay. Does anybody else have questions for James? Okay, James, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Kathy Calhoun, Treasurer's Report.
It's 7:16. I did not expect to be on deck this quickly, but here we go. So hopefully you all had a chance to review the treasurer's report. I'm going to just touch on a couple of key items. From a registration standpoint, we're just a little around about a 0.5% reduction compared to the same period in the prior year, and about 93% of budget. I know the board's been getting information on numbers, but currently financially we are holding up fairly well. Dropping to the bottom line of the report. Okay, so from a net operating perspective, we are $42,684 positive. Dropping to the very bottom, we are about $12,246 negative. One of the things that I wanted to call out and make sure that folks are aware that the May-June reporting does not include anything in regard to the annual in the numbers. That we'll start to see that in July. So, you know, we can anticipate what that impact may look like. And we anticipate about $110,000 in expense, net expense related to the annual meeting. So that's down the pike. That we'll see that probably in the October report for the board. We had talked about earlier to make a decision on whether or not to have the October board meeting via Zoom or in person at the August meeting. We are now at the August meeting. So I have a motion to conduct the October 2022 CFA board meeting virtually via Zoom platform, making the decision regarding February 2023 CFA board meeting location or platform in December of 2022.
Rachel seconds.
Reason
Okay,
being,
Rachel, thank you, Kathy, for presenting the motion. Pam Delabar, you have your hand up.
I think right now we should just be addressing October of 2022, because the February meeting is our breeds and standards, and I feel that's very important for us to still consider and not bring it up until December. I don't want that decision to be part of this motion.
Okay, Pam Mosier.
I just wanted to say that if you're considering to have a Zoom meeting for October and February, or just one of those are going to be in person, I personally would prefer to be in October, due to in February, that's when bad weather, we can have a lot of bad weather and we could get stuck places. Just my opinion.
Okay, Pam, thank you for that information. Melanie?
I'm fully cognizant of the financial implications of where we're going with our projections, et cetera, and how much money it costs to put an in-person meeting in. But having just gone through our first in-person meeting in several years and seen how much more productive we were and how much smarter how many more smarter, that was English, decisions we made sitting there in person versus a Zoom meeting, to me, it's a cost of doing business. I can't support changing something as important as show rules and all of that to a Zoom meeting.
Kathy, do you want to address the comments and questions that came in now, or do you want to wait till you get them all?
I'll address them now.
Go ahead.
So, the budget calls for one in-person board meeting, and of course, the annual, which has already occurred. To address Pam's concerns, I have no problem with removing that. The point of putting it in, we typically do have the final discussion around February in the December timeframe. So we'll see where we are. We did budget for one. So the likelihood, if we do not have the October meeting in person, that would allow those funds to be funneled to February. But I'm just putting that in for caution's sake, and I would not have an issue about removing. As to Pam Mosher's comment, there's no debate around that. The weather in October and the weather in February are dramatically different. But CFA business and CFA shows and everything else goes on. Life goes on. But you're right. From a weather perspective, October is better. From Melanie's perspective, we continue to say that we make better decisions in person. I don't doubt that I think this board makes good decisions consistently. I think that we, particularly when we've had our Zoom meetings, in our regular meetings, which happen during the day, I think those meetings go very, very smoothly. We have that experience. I think what we are also maybe considering that quite often when we have these in-between meetings that start in the evening and it gets late and we start to make poor decisions. That I would say is true, but I've heard this repeatedly about us making bad decisions virtually, but no one has ever pointed out where were those costly decisions. So my point is that we have a very significant headwind ahead, and I always look at, when I look at things like this, if this were my dollar, I would not spend $35,000 to $50,000 at this point in time, knowing that we have an annual that is probably going to cost, it was budgeted at $74,000 at a $74,000 loss. It is probably going to be more than that, given the airfares and whatnot. Our experience on in-person board meetings has been around the $35,000, $38,000 mark, but we're seeing airfares in the $1,500 to $2,000 range, and everything else. And there's inflation that impacts everything. I think this board has the determination and the focus to make good decisions virtually. I have faith in our board. Now, I would say that from a team building perspective, of course, being in person is better. There's no doubt about that. But we're in a new day, and we have to. I don't want to be in a position that if there's something that we can do to support CFA to land in the positive, that we shouldn't be doing it. And to the point that it's a cost of doing business, it is a cost of doing business, but it's a cost that we can manage.
Hey, Kathy, thank you. Annette Wilson.
Thank you. First of all, Kathy, could you speak a little louder into your microphone or closer to it? Some of us are having trouble hearing you. The only thing I wanted to mention is regarding the February board meeting, which is Breeds and Standards. I think it worked pretty well last February, and the Breed Council secretaries, more of them were able to participate because it was on Zoom. So if we had to choose between the two, and I am in favor of in-person board meetings, I would say February could be better done via Zoom. That's all.
Thank you, Annette. Pam Delabar.
I wanted to say, Kathy, the quality of your audio is breaking up all the time. And that would be, to me, an indication that in person is better. And I have to agree with Melanie. The dynamics of our board this last June was, it was really, really quite good. And I actually felt part of a larger organization that way, rather than being one of the creatures of the night, which I always have to participate in the night, middle of the night, as a regional director out of Europe. But to Pam Mosier, hey, in October, we're fighting snow and ice already. So it doesn't, the weather doesn't make a difference to me. I'm there, whether it's October or February or June.
Hey, Kathy, do you have some closing arguments?
And no, I just want to say that my position is I want to do what I think overall is the financially responsible thing to do. I don't know what the balance of this year is going to look like. I don't know what registration, where it's going. So I can't predict how the next 3 quarters pan out. But based on what I can see today, I would be looking for opportunities to save money. This is significant. This is a significant amount of money. My crystal ball is not any better than anyone else's. I'm basing this on what I see today. And is this any clearer?
Not very clear. It's a little bit better for my end, but it's not great, Kathy.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to my normal speaker. This is a new one, which is what should have been better.
Okay.
And I would not judge the entire board meeting on my audio decision.
Okay.
I just would. That would just be.
Okay. Mark, you had your hand up. Did you have any comments? Okay, Kathy and Rachel. Rachel, I believe you seconded Kathy's motion. Pam Delabar made the recommendation to remove the second part of your motion, Kathy. Do you and Rachel agree to move the second part of the motion?
I do.
Rachel?
Yes.
Does anybody have any objections to removing the second part of Kathy's original motion? George?
We need to make a decision about the February board meeting at some point. If we don't give ourselves a date, it's just sitting out there in limbo. So it may make it easier to pass, but we need to make a decision on February, and we can't just say, well, we're not even going to decide when we're going to decide it. We ought to at least be able to do that much.
Okay, George, I'm not taking as you're objecting to removing it. Shelley, go ahead.
Okay, first I would ask that Aline, oh, hold on, sorry. I would ask that she allow my iPad to become a panelist so I can get off my phone. But I guess I don't see the point in removing this. It simply says we're going to do October by Zoom and we'll decide February later. So I don't know what we're removing the second part for. I don't know if that was a misunderstanding that it was also saying February would be by Zoom, but it's just saying we will decide February later. So I don't honestly see the point in removing it. That's my input.
Okay, Pam Delabar, will you clarify your position on that, please?
Sorry, had to unmute. Reason being is that when we originally discussed this, we were basically looking at saying, okay, the October board meeting, we will decide at the August meeting. February was considered a go because we were going to fund a meeting in addition to the annual meeting when we were originally talking this budget and what we were going to do with October. That's why I brought it up, is that February was pretty much a given. And then October was the one that we were going to decide on. By the by, as far as airfares, mine has improved by €400. And of course, with the euro and the dollar being parity right now, that's a big chunk down from what I had to pay to come over in June.
Kathy and Rachel, do either one of you recall if what Pam just stated is what the board agreed to, that February was going to be a go? Kathy, go ahead.
What we agreed to, what we budgeted for was the annual meeting and one board meeting. So the decision had not been made whether it was October or February. If we don't do October, as I said, then it would probably be February. I don't have a problem with it one way or another. I will tell you though, if our financials dictate, I would certainly discuss it in December, but we don't have to have it in here. I have no bias either way. We can remove it or we can leave it.
Okay, and then Rachel, do you have any different recollection of what Kathy just stated?
Only that the leaning was toward February because of the possibility that cats might be there, but I don't, Annette would have a better picture about that if we have breeds coming forward for advancement.
Okay, so Kathy, do you have anything else to say?
I do not. I just
Okay.
lowered my hand.
So seeing there's no strong objections to removing the second part of the motion, we're going to remove it. And we're going to go with Kathy's original motion, and that is conduct the October 22 CFA board meeting virtually via Zoom platform, period. Rachel made the second. They both agreed. Nobody strongly objected. If you are in favor of this, you vote yes. That means the October board meeting will be held Zoom. If you are not in favor of this, we will likely have the October board meeting in person. Mark, you have a question? Okay. So I'm going to do this how we've been doing it in the past. No, I'm going to call the motion because I already know that we have at least one person who objects to this. So all those in favor of Kathy's motion, please raise your hand. Okay, I have Rachel Anger, Mark Hannon, Kathy Calhoun, Kathy Dunham, Yukiko Hayata-san, George Eigenhauser, Paula Noble, Pam Delabar, Carol Kuznowski. Please lower your hands. All those opposed, raise your hand. Okay, I have Melanie Morgan, Pam Mosier, Kenny Curley, Russell Webb, Mike Shelton, Annette Wilson, Mark Hannon, John Kalila. Please lower your hands.
I voted twice and I'm voting against it.
Okay, so all right, so you're not a yes. Is it? Okay. Rachel, did you get that? Mark is not a yes, he's voting against it.
Correct.
Okay. Any abstentions, please raise your hands. Okay, I see no abstentions. Rachel, will you call the motion or call the vote? Oh, Sharon Roy, are you an abstention? You're on mute, Sharon.
Oh, I am, because I really don't know what the right decision is.
Okay, Sharon is an abstention. Rachel, please call the vote.
I'm counting, sorry. Sorry, I'm getting, I had to handwrite these this time, and I'm getting an incorrect vote. Can I repeat the yes votes?
Sure.
I have anger. Sorry, can't read my writing, that's a problem. Oh, Hannon, that's it, okay. So I have 8 yes, 8 no, 1 abstention.
You're kidding, right?
That's what I have.
All right. Okay. I trust that you're accurate. Sharon, are you sure you're an abstention?
It's on you, Rich.
I'm gonna vote yes.
You're going to vote yes.
Yes.
So that
Okay.
changes the vote, Rachel.
That's 9 yes, 8 no,
Okay.
0 abstentions.
Okay. Sharon, I think I owe you one. Thank you for casting your vote on that. Rachel, correct me if I'm wrong. I have greater than 50%. That means Kathy's motion passed, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, Kathy, your motion carried. We will do the October board meeting via Zoom.
Okay,
Kathy, do you have anything else you'd like to discuss?
no,
Does anybody have any questions regarding Kathy's report? Shelley, you have your hand up?
First thing is I'm really hoping that Aline will elevate my iPad to panelist so I can get off my phone. And then the second thing is, does that mean that the default is that the February meeting is in person at this time?
Well, so let's deal with your first issue. Aline, what's the status on being able to promote Shelley?
I don't see Shelley's iPad in the attendees. What's the name of your iPad, Shelley? There's no Shelley Perkins or iPad here in the attendees.
Shelley, you're on mute.
I just joined by the number, so I don't, it says Shelley K. Perkins. I don't know. Maybe I'll go out and come right back in.
Yeah, why don't you try that? Because I don't see even a phone number out there in the attendees.
Okay, I'll try it right now. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, Shelley, while you're doing that, to answer your second question, I believe what Kathy stated was that the February board meeting is likely going to be in person unless we have a financial disaster, is pretty much how she summed it up. At least that was the language I understood in communicating with Kathy. Kathy, will you just reiterate what you stated?
you are correct.
Okay, so we do speak the same language.
You do.
Okay, all right. Aline,
through
were you
better?
able? Go ahead,
Sorry.
Kathy.
Am I coming through better?
Not really.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. I'll keep trying.
Aline, do you see Shelley yet?
Yeah, I see her.
Okay.
See if that. Okay.
Yeah, I see you're bringing her in.
Thank you, I'm in.
Okay, Shelley, you're gonna have to turn up. Okay, great, thank you. Okay, Kathy, you still have your hand up? Okay, all right, Kathy, you're up next. Diversity and inclusion.
I trust that you all read the report. There's no action items.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Kathy on her report? Pam Delabar.
Kathy, just one thing, on sometimes when you state things like baseline assessment, develop baseline assessment of metrics related to minority participation and inclusion. Can you do that more Dick and Jane so people can understand the report? I think of metrics and I'm thinking of kilometers and kilograms and stuff like that. I know what you're saying, but if you put it in Dick and Jane for the total population to be able to read and understand your report might help just a little.
Go ahead, Kathy, you can respond to Pam.
The short of it is, we don't know if we achieve success until we know where we started. So
I realize that.
Well, that you just asked me to put it in
Dick and Jane language.
That's the Dick and Jane. That's the Dick and Jane of it. We don't know where we are trying to assess where we started to determine if we have been successful or not along our journey. That's the Dick and Jane.
Can you state it like that in your report so when people are reading your report, they understand what you're doing?
I think
that was brought to me. I have a statistics background, so I'm just, know all about baseline assessments, et cetera. But I'm trying to say it was brought to me because people who read your report didn't understand what you were coming after. Okay.
Hey, Pam, thank you for your comments. Kathy, thank you for your response. Is there any other questions or comments for Kathy? Okay, Kathy, you have the next one.
Okay.
International division.
Is Bob Zinda in the audience?
Yes, I'll bring him in right now.
Bring him in.
Oh. Yep. He should be here any second.
Okay, so I'll get started, and I'm sure people have reviewed the report. One of the first things that we need to address is the quote unquote International Council annual meeting as it is described in the bylaws. We need to have that meeting as we did not have it at the annual, and it is dictated by the bylaws that we have at least one. We are targeting September 14th. This would serve as pre-notice to the board for that meeting. And it would be, of course, via Zoom. Scheduling and show licensing approvals will go through the committee chairs and the subcommittee chairs. And that's our over the 2 points that I wanted to bring up that are under all areas. As far as the China subcommittee report, we had a very, very good, productive, collaborative meeting on July 25th, where we included Eva, Matthew, and the entire team was there. Matthew has put together an NGO process and protocol document. We are routing that through folks to make sure that it is accurate, but that's going to be a great help in creating additional visibility to that process, and that will be made available to the board. We have talked about area advisors, and they are listed. We are moving the board action item to closed session. We are in the process of in the search of additional entry clerks, as we have had some of the entry clerks in the two, as a matter of fact, that are now in the associate judging program, so that they can no longer be entry clerks. So we are looking to fill those spaces.
Okay, Kathy, you want to take questions before you take
Sure.
your two motions?
Yep.
Okay, Pam Delabar? You're on mute, Pam.
Through the chair to, and Kathy to Melanie, do we have a rule that judges and associates cannot be entry clerks?
Melanie, can you address that?
There's no rule, but I know that we've asked people not to do that in the past. Before my tenure, it's certainly frowned upon. It gives them a whole lot of prior knowledge in terms of entries, et cetera. And we've certainly asked people who have joined the judging program to give up their entry clerking activities. I never could find a rule that backed that up.
Okay, thank you, Melanie. John Kalula?
Yes, when Bethany got in the judging program, she was asked to not entry clerking at all. It was never an issue for her. So I mean, she gladly gave up, and she actually trained somebody to be very good entry clerk, Nicole Turk.
I said, I was just asking for do we have a rule? If not, Melanie, maybe you want to think of that for October.
Okay, George Eigenhauser?
I vaguely remember there's a judging rule somewhere that judges are not allowed to become cognizant of the entries prior to a show in which they officiate. Being an entry clerk would make you cognizant of the entries.
Okay.
Only if you're judging, George.
Only, right.
Yeah, but presumably the people that are going to be doing the entry clerks are going to be doing the entry clerks pretty much all the time. So if they're judging the shows, it's going to be a problem more often than not.
Kathy Cohen?
Just to make additional comment that the individuals were not asked to stop entry clerking by the committee. They had decided to stop.
Okay, the individuals
Tony
decided
and-
on their own?
Yes,
Okay,
they were not given that direction by the committee.
okay. As for Pam Delabar's request for a rule, Carol Kozlowski, do you want to review that with Mary Kay? And you can come back in October with some thoughts on what you and Mary Kay might be recommended, and if you would also work with Melanie on that.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, thank you. Kathy Cohen, do you still have your hand up? Do you have anything else?
No.
Okay, Pam Delabar. Okay. John, will you also work with Carol, Mary Kay, and Melanie, because it does have to do with entry clerks?
I have something to say about the entry clerking program. I think once you in the log in as an entry clerk, you should be able to get into all other entry shows. I think that needs to be looked into.
Okay, so if you and Bethany can work with Melanie, Carol, and Mary Kay, that'd be helpful, and everybody could present the recommendations to the board. Kathy Dunham.
Okay.
Thank you, John. Kathy Dunham.
Yeah, I just wanted to answer John's question about the entry clerking program. No, you cannot get into anyone else's entry clerking show. So if I'm entry clerking a show, I cannot get into anything that Nicole or Andrea or anyone in Europe is entry clerking. All I can see is my own list of shows.
So
Just
Kathy, before I call on Pam Delabar, does each entry clerk have a private or a designated login to access?
Yes.
Okay, and that was for the purpose of everybody in the audience, for you to share that information. Pam Delabar?
Yeah, you had recognized me, Rich, and then went right over me. What I brought this up for was for Melanie to put it into the judging program rules. It really needs to be there before it needs to be in our show rules, because it affects judges. That's why I brought it up. And usually the judging program rules are brought up in October at the October meeting.
Okay, thanks, Pam. Okay, are there any other questions for Kathy's report before we get into her two motions? Okay, Kathy, go ahead and present your motion.
Okay, I'm gonna start with the rationale of this, these two motions, and this is something that John brought to the table. With show counts in China dramatically dropped, there's only 2 Albury judges in China per se. Not every, who are not contracted to judge every show license. Majority of the shows are specialty rings, and it makes it difficult to achieve points to grant a cat. So acknowledging this issue, we have these 2 motions to reduce the points required. This may be an incentive for people during this difficult time to enter more cats. So that's the rationale for both. The first one is regarding Grand Champion, effective May 1st, 2022. So that we go back to the beginning of this season. Cats exhibited in the 2022-2023 show season will require 175 points to earn the title of Grand Champion. It's important to note that this does not mean that a cat that was shown whatever time ago will now all of a sudden get the title of Grand Champion. They have to be exhibited this season for this to apply.
May I have a second? Nobody wants to second this?
Melanie will second.
Okay. Okay, Pam Delabar.
You're probably going to wish that I had overslept this meeting. I'm going to vote against both of these. Europe has still been plugging away with the same show rules, the same grand points, when we've had shows of 41, 50, and we are still going on and not asking for any special consideration. And we are growing. If you have seen the reports coming on statistics that come from Dick Kalmeyer. So I can't support either of these.
Okay, George.
I just have a minor technical problem. Nowhere in the motion does it say China. So that's kind of a problem for me. I know that's implied. I know that's what you meant, but it's not what you said.
That is a problem. Thank you, George.
Okay, before I ask any more questions, Kathy, you want to restate the motion?
I think that we could just add at the end of the motion, after Grand Champion and after Grand Premier, in China, mainland China.
Melanie, you still going to second that?
Yes, fine.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
I was just curious why there's such a discrepancy in how much we're lowering the premiership requirements as opposed to championship. The premiership's being lowered by 33%, but the championship only by 12.5%. That seems to me to be a big difference.
Kathy, you want to address that now?
Sure. Premiership is not a category that we have a lot of cats in China. It's growing a little bit, very slowly, but it's not a great amount of the cats entered in premiership. So the thought was, yes, if we would drop it to 50, it would be an incentive. There was no more than that.
Okay, Kathy, thank you. Matthew?
Hi, just to add, right now in China, the process is a bit more painful than any other place on the planet. Because in China, CFA has to go through this NGO process. Basically, we are not doing like normally in other places. We need to go through a 2-month process at least to do filing and signing agreement with the NGO office in order to put on the show. The reality right now in China, we only have 4 cities where we can put on shows: Chengdu, Chongqing, Hangzhou, and Jiashan. So this is 4 cities versus before we have more than 15 cities where we can put on shows. So the number of shows has gone down a lot because lack of cities managed to get an NGO filing. Now, I don't need to remind you what just happened in Taiwan, China last night. So the chance of us being able to expand the number of cities to get blessing from an NGO for putting on a show for a US organization called CFA has just gone significantly lower in the past 24 hours. Secondly, because China is still very stubborn about this COVID zero policy, I shouldn't say stubborn, by the way, off the record. So this COVID zero policy, so traveling from one city to another has become very uncertain. So as you could see, the lockdown is very abrupt. So you could fly into Chongqing on a Friday night from Shanghai. Saturday, you go on a show, and then in the very evening, you receive a text on your mobile phone saying you're locked down. And you could be stuck there for 7 days, 14 days in this particular hotel in Chongqing. So intercity traveling to show a cat has been massively reduced, right? So what happened is the number of cats has significantly gone down to just roughly 60-ish cats per show for all premiership, championship, and kittens. So what people are saying that even if they are going into the show and with the associate judges, it's all single specialties. So they're, even as the best cat or the best kitten, they're only picking up 20 points. So you can imagine for them to accumulate to the grand champion, even if they are the best cat, and even with if they go to every single local shows in nearby city, it's take them easily like many shows and sometimes more than a season. So therefore, that's the need to address that right now. And this is for this year only. If I think COVID will eventually pass, we will have the 20th Party Congress this autumn. And hopefully after that, there will be some significant relaxation in terms of COVID policy and travel. However, obviously, the NGO process is still going to be around for the near future from what I can see how US and China going these days. So I hear, Palm, I think you're great to mention that in Europe, you don't really see the need of this. But I think China is under perfect storm right now with the NGO process, with the COVID. And we are basically just filled with associate judges with single specialties. Once the border open, as you could see in the rest of the region, we're getting all breed judges from US, Japan to fly in again. Then we don't need this reduction. So right now it's just under this very unfortunate perfect storm that we need some help. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Pam Delabar.
And Matthew, you brought up some of the reasons. I was going to state why I think this is premature, because you name situations, except for the NGOs, which we know we have to have. The other things, especially the zero COVID policy, right now, until we see a little bit more history going on, or projections going on, I think that this is totally premature. As for Europe, yeah, we're still dealing with some COVID policies because we still have to go through city governments, sometimes country governments, to get what we need to put on shows. I can't tell you how much we're going through just to be able to put on our regional show and awards banquet coming up in September. But be that as it may, I still cannot support either one of these.
Hey, Pam, thank you. Kathy?
This is for Eileen. Can you promote Wayne?
Yes. Yep, do that right now. And you saw that Bob Zen has been in the meeting for a
I
while.
see, yeah, I see Bob, yeah.
And Wayne should be here shortly. He's in under his email address, Basties. There he is, Basties Happy.
Okay, all right. Rich, is it okay if I ask if Wayne or John have any other comments?
Yes, of course.
The shows in China,
Go ahead, John.
there's not enough entries, and the ring, there's not that many rings shows. I don't think they have shows more than 4 rings, if I'm not mistaken. So, chances of earning enough points is very difficult. Sometimes even 3 rings, I noticed. So that's why I think this is very important to help China for this year.
Okay, thank you, John. Wayne, welcome. Go ahead, Wayne. You want to share some comments? I can't hear Wayne. Can anybody hear Wayne?
No,
No.
I don't think he's muted.
He just muted him.
Oh,
He's,
oh, okay.
now he's unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I would pretty much agree with what everyone has said. The reason that we thought about doing this was because there are only 2 Albury judges in China. Europe has Albury judges. China does not. It has 2. Only one of them is working at this point. So even if the Albury judge is hired, all of the rest of the judges are from our associate judging program, which means at this point in time, they can only do specialties. So that makes it very difficult for these cats to get points because they're all specialty rings. The reason that we went with 175 for championship was because that was what Hong Kong had. We asked for even less points than what Hong Kong has for premiership because Hong Kong has large premiership classes. China has very small premiership classes, and we're hoping to promote premiership in China. So we thought that was a good way to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. John, I see you still have your hand up. Do you have further comments?
Yes, I think we need to make a change to that 2 Albury, just more like 1 1/4, because Chloe just a lot more shows than Amanda. Amanda maybe just a few shows. So that lower the chances of even getting enough grant points.
Okay, John.
Even though this is 2, it's really not really 2.
Okay, John, thank you. Do you have any further comments? Okay, Kathy?
I have no further comments. I think everything has been covered.
Okay. Seeing no other hands up, I'm going to call the motion. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Melanie Morgan, Mark Hannon, Kathy Calhoun, George Eigenhauser, Pam Mosier, John Kulla, Carol Krasnowski, Mike Shelton, Russell Webb, Kathy Dunham, Kenny Curley, Sharon Roy, Yukika Hayata, Annette Wilson. Lower your hands, please. All those opposed, raise your hand. Pam Delabar. Lower your hand, Pam. Abstentions, raise your hand. Rachel Anger. Paula, were you a no?
That is correct.
Okay. So Rachel, I have Paula and Pam as a no, and I have just you as an abstention. Can you please tell us the votes?
I have 14 yes, 2 no, 1 abstention.
Okay, the motion carries.
Thank you.
Kathy, you want to do your next motion?
Yes. Effective May 1st, 2022, cats exhibited in the 2022-2023 show season will require 50 points to earn the title of Grand Premier in mainland China.
Okay, may I have a second?
Melanie seconds.
Thank you, Melanie. Okay, any questions or comments to this motion? Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. Kathy Calhoun, Mark Hannon, George Eigenhauser, Melanie Morgan, Carol Kuznowski, Russell Webb, Kathy Dunham, Kenny Curley, Pam Mosier, John Kalila, Mike Shelton, Sharon Roy, Yukiki Hayata, Paula Noble, Annette Wilson. Please lower your hand. All those opposed, raise your hand. Pam Delabar. Pam, lower your hand. Abstentions, please raise your hand. Rachel Anger. Okay, Rachel, please announce the vote.
15 yes, 1 no, 1 abstention.
Okay, the motion carries. Kathy, do you have anything else you would like to review?
Not in regard to China. We also
Okay.
have a very detailed report from Bob Zinda, and Bob is online, correct?
Yeah, I see, Bob.
Bob, do you want any additions to your report? It's very detailed and much appreciated.
The only thing that I would like to say is that it's going gangbusters in the ID right now. We've already had 12 shows this season. Another 12 are already licensed. There's another 15 that are penciled in, and that's just going toward the beginning of the year. So I think we're in pretty good shape. We're not seeing much happening on reserving dates in Thailand, and you probably understand the reason for that. We may get into that later on today. The other thing I would say is that the banquet, I attended the banquet in Bangkok, and they did a fabulous job. The Central Breed Cat Club and that crew just did a beautiful job. It was, and I sent some pictures from the banquet to Aileen just a little bit earlier today, and I plan to also make a short little article with some photos for the newsletter. Other than that, I think things are going pretty well. We're communicating. Matthew and I communicate quite a bit, and of course, Kathy's got her hand on us to make sure that we are talking together. And to me, it's going well. Thanks for keeping me on the committee.
Hang on, Bob. Does anybody have any questions for Bob? Bob, thank you for joining us. Okay, Kathy, you want to continue?
Yep, and next we have AWA CSA. And Kenny, do you have any additions, comments?
Well, yeah, I've gotten some information concerning India. I have a representative in my subcommittee who has just sent me a late report. I was hoping to include it in this, but I'll bring it up at the International Division meeting in September. As we all know, I think India has surpassed the amount of people that actually live there overall in mainland China. So there's 1.4 billion people living there, and there's well over a few million cats. So the opportunity is there. It's just that we need to formulate some sort of a business plan to move forward. But we'll bring up more of that at the International Division meeting in September.
Okay, Kenny, thank you. Kathy, before we end your report, would you repeat the date of the meeting in September?
Yeah, I polled our committee, and it looks like September 14th.
September 14th?
2022, of course.
And is that an 8 p.m. start time?
We actually had not gotten that far. Let me just.
All right, so as soon as you determine that, I'd like to get notification out to the board within 30 days of the meeting, if at all possible.
Absolutely.
Okay. Then I don't have any further questions. Do you have any other further comments, Kathy?
I do not.
Okay, thank you for your report. Kathy Dunham, you are next. Awards.
Okay, thank you. Aline, if you could just scroll
Yeah,
up
I'm just,
slightly.
yep, lost it. Hold on one second. There we go. Sorry.
Okay, the awards committee took over from the scoring manipulation investigation committee at the June 2022 board meeting. And we have continued to follow through with the items that the board approved at that time. The first item that we have completed is the board statement. It is listed there. We have also concluded or completed the survey document, which will be sent out to clubs and exhibitors on August 4th for them to complete. We are asking them to have that completed by August 19th. The real-time query that was approved, we are currently finishing the work with Kathy Durdick and the IT committee on that. Long-term projects, we are still working on the exhibitor's code of conduct. We have completed the transition to the new special investigation committee. And the centralized entry clerking program, we are in the preliminary work with the IT committee and the entry clerking program subcommittee on that project. We only have one motion for tonight, and that is to approve the following statement for publication the week of August 1st. The Cat Fanciers Association will not tolerate count manipulation or unsportsmanlike conduct on the part of any exhibitor. Any complaint will be thoroughly investigated, due process afforded, and disciplinary action taken where necessary in accordance with CFA bylaws and CFA show rules, including but not limited to Article 15 and show rules 1.03, 6.034, 35.09, and 35.10. I will answer any questions.
Okay, may I have a second?
Kenny, seconds.
Thank you, Kenny. Kathy?
That was just a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
That's okay.
Anybody else have any questions? Kathy, I do have a question for you. When you read the motion, you stated Article 15. However, the written motion is Article 14. Can we get a clarification on that? Is it 14 or 15?
I believe it is Article 14 with the renumbering. I'm sorry, that was my error because it was 15 in the prior document.
Okay, but you believe it's Article 14?
I do believe it's Article 14. I do not, unfortunately, have the bylaws right in front of me.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any other questions for Kathy? Okay, does anybody object to this motion? Raise your hand. Seeing no objections, this motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Kathy, thank you. George?
Before we go,
Yes, George.
I looked in the Constitution. It is in fact 15, not 14.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm
George,
sorry.
Thank you for clarifying that.
I read it so many times that I just read what I thought it needed to say.
Yeah, it's 15.
Okay, thank
So
you.
I'm sorry, that's the typographical error on my part.
Do we need to correct the motion?
Shelley?
Yes, it's better to just say the motion should be corrected and then do a unanimous vote again.
Okay.
I move we correct it from 14 to 15.
I'll second.
Who seconded that?
Kenny.
Thank you, Kenny. Thank you, George. Any objections? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you again.
Kathy, did you have anything else?
Not for this particular report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy, you are up next. Again, annual meeting site selection.
Okay, at the June board meeting, the board authorized a committee that is made up of all of the regional directors and Aline Talataglia, as well as Amber Goodright from central office. And we were charged with looking at the challenges of finding hotels for the annual meeting. And within those properties, finding appropriate space and keeping our price point at approximately $150 per guest night. We had a fabulous discussion in our meeting, and those are all listed there for you to read. What the committee would like is a straw poll of the entire board to be able to move forward with actually looking at some of these options, staying in one location or rotating between 2 or 3 locations, East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, in a 3-year cycle, and then putting together some guidelines for how each region or group of regions would be responsible for participation in that annual when it's their designated year. We also realized there would need to be an amendment to our bylaws to allow us to even do this, which we would bring back at the October board meeting for approval and then present it at the 2023 annual.
Kenny?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate, during this meeting, which was very productive, Aline had stated, and I think this is important for all of us to remember, the buying power of staying in one place for a couple of years. You can get a better negotiated price on these hotels. And a lot of the suggestions, are written out here. Should we even explore this? As far as costs are concerned, some of our locations have been very, very successful. Others have been quite tenuous. I would really encourage all the board to look at these options that we need to talk about here, and perhaps Aline can expound a little bit further in staying in one location for like a 3-year period and then move to another part of the country for the following 3 years.
Okay, thank you, Kenny. Mike?
The only concern I have, I'm very much in favor of looking at this. We need to do something. Costs are getting out of hand. I'm a little concerned about having it in any given place for 3 years in a row. Any annual tends to take on the flavor of its home region. And sometimes there are some of the rules that are changed and policies that are enacted that are reflective of the majority of the delegates that are at the meeting. So if you have one in the East, it's going to reflect the opinions of the East Coast, especially if you have it there 3 years in a row. And then when it comes West, it's the West Coast, and in the Central, it's Central, and we all have different concerns. So 3 years in a row in one place, unless it's a huge financial saving, I may have a little bit of a problem with that. But in general, I like the idea of picking spots and not trying to find a new home in every region every year.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Do any of the other regional directors want to share any comments and thoughts? Kathy, do you have anything further before I ask the question on the straw poll?
I do not. I think it's all stated here, and the regional directors were all all had great comments and addressed them the best we could in this concise report so that everyone could see what we wanted to do.
Kathy, we missed a little bit of the beginning of what you were saying.
I'm sorry, I'm in a place where the internet is not as stable as I would like it to be. I don't have anything to add. The regional directors were fabulous in putting this together, so I think it stands on its own.
Okay, Kathy Calhoun.
Yeah, I'm very much in favor of going in a new direction. I think that this committee has done a great job of putting together options. I particularly like the cruise one, but okay, fine. But I think we have an example of the international show when we repeat, when we stay with in one facility, we learn how to how we operate with the management team of the facilities. We can increase our bargaining power by substantially. So I'm really in favor of this, and I'm glad to see that there is a team working on it.
Okay, I'm going to ask the question. Raise your hand if you are in favor of the straw poll motion that Kathy has presented. Okay, from a straw poll standpoint, it appears as though there's 14 in favor. I will read the names: Rachel, Melanie Morgan, John Kalila, Kathy Calhoun, Carol Kuznowski, Kathy Dunham, Pam Delabar, Sharon Roy, Kenny Curley, Russell Webb, Mike Shelton, Pam Mosier, Rachel Anger, Yukika Hayata, Paula Noble, Mark Hannon, Annette Wilson. Okay, lower your hands. Those opposed to the straw poll? I don't see anybody raising their hands. Any abstentions to the straw poll? George Eigenhauser. Rachel, I think we have 16 in favor. Is that what you have?
Correct, and one abstention.
Yep. Okay, great. Okay,
Thank you.
Kathy, I think you got the message.
I did, thank you.
Okay, Kathy, anything else?
No, I'm good for right now, thank you.
Okay, Kathy, thank you. We're going to do show rules. Aline, can you bring Mary Kay in, please?
She is already in.
Oh, hi, Mary.
Hey, hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Okay, so I received questions from multiple people about whether vaping is prohibited in the show hall because someone was vaping at a show a few weeks ago. And after reviewing the show rules and consulting Shelley, even though our show rules prohibit smoking, they do not specifically prohibit vaping or e-cigarettes. And as anyone who has ever been a show manager knows, if something isn't prohibited in the show rules, eventually someone will try it and say, well, that's not in the show rules. So exhibitors have an expectation that this is prohibited. In some states, local governments, and some prohibited, some facilities it is, but not in all. So we're going to bring a show rule change in October to include this. And we are asking in the meantime that the board issue this statement that's in the motion that we include e-cigarettes in the definition of smoking.
And Carol will make that motion.
Hey, Carol, will you read in the record, for the record, the exact motion?
Aline, could you scroll down to where that appears, please? Okay. All right, that you got it. The board will issue the following statement regarding vaping in the halls. All references in the show rules regarding smoking are meant to include smoking of any kind, including but not limited to cigarettes, cigars, e-cigarettes, and vaping. Show rules will be modified to include this definition as of August 3rd, 2022.
Thank you, Carol. Kathy, are you seconding this?
Yes, and I have a question.
Okay. Go ahead, Kathy.
My question is, so if, and Mary Kay, you may have already, you may be like 2 steps ahead of me. So if this happens, will the show manager have the ability to remove the individual? What happens? What are the results if this happens?
So if I were a show manager and I were in a show hall where someone was vaping, I would be able to go to them and say, excuse me, the shows do not allow you to vape. And I would take the same action as if they had lit up a cigarette. So
Do we need any verbiage like that in the show rule?
we don't have it now.
I know.
So what happens now if somebody starts smoking in the show hall? What do we do?
I don't know.
The show rules ban it. So the show manager would have the ability to kick that person from the hall if they won't stop. I mean, you could call security and come and get them and throw them from the show hall, I would guess. So this is just to treat e-cigarettes and vaping the same as we treat smoking. So if we don't have anything in the show rules now that about what to do when somebody's smoking, then do you want me to put that in the show rules? Because we don't have it in there now.
Go ahead, Kathy.
The only reason I've mentioned it, Mary, is that we have many show rules that say you're not supposed to do this or you're not supposed to do that, but it doesn't say what the consequence is. That's all.
So Mary, maybe you look at what the show manager or show management can do by adding something in the show rules. All you're going to do is present it to the board for approval, and if the board likes it, they will approve it. If they don't like it, maybe they'll have you rework it. Carol?
Yes, it really is up, as far as the smoking is concerned, it is up to the show manager to address the situation should it occur at a show. If the person refuses to stop, there is a provision, I think, Mary, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 35 point whatever it is. It talks about the procedure for bringing protest to the board to address to take care of the situation. So it's already in there. It's just in a little bit of a convoluted kind of place.
Okay. Any other questions for Mary or Carol on this motion? Okay, are there any objections to the motion? Seeing no objections, this motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Mary, I assume you don't have anything else?
Oh, no, I don't have anything else for this meeting.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Mary? Kathy?
I just had one more question. So are we assuming when it says this is effective today, tomorrow, how are we going to communicate? Is this something going to be going out to the clubs or?
Well,
Eileen,
go ahead.
Eileen, will you put this in the CFA news? And Pam, you're going to put it in your notes, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and Eileen?
Yes.
Okay.
It'll be in the news. We can post it on the official discussion Facebook group, and I'll also have an addendum to the show rules online.
Okay, Pam Delabar?
I'm sorry, Rich, that's, I was just going to say, I'll put it in the notes.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Mark?
I don't understand why we're going to send out the notes by a CFA news notice, and we're also going to have Eileen put out a CFA news notice about this. I don't think we need two CFA notices on the same thing. I think Pam's notes should suffice. Yeah, I agree we could put it in other areas, but I don't see two CFA news notices.
Pam, correct me if I'm wrong. Roughly, when does your notes go out? I know you do them. I will receive them, and whoever else receives them, then we got to proof them. Will they be out by tomorrow, or will they be out by the 4th?
Oh, no, they'll be out by tomorrow, and I'm already into tomorrow, Rich. So I'm looking at maybe 8 hours from now, you'll have them. And I send them to the president and to Eileen.
Okay, okay. All right. Is there any further discussion on this? Okay, seeing no further discussion, Mary, thank you again.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay, we are going to do experimental formats. Sharon Roy.
Yeah, the proposal's gonna stay the same. However, I talked to Heidi today and she gave me a couple of more information or a couple pieces of information. One, I think I misunderstood her. She's actually going to set up 8 rings at the same time. She's still gonna have 4 judges start in the morning and 4 judges start at noon time. But the morning judges aren't going to be pressured to finish so that the afternoon judges can start. Her sponsoring club is going to be Paper Tigers Cat Club. So those are the only 2 differences. She feels that the West Coast really needs to do this in order for the people to, oh, come on, Kitty, actually have a chance to, get enough rings to compete and qualify for both regional and national wins. And that's why she's asking for it. So it's basically to allow a 1-day 8-ring show.
Okay, George, you have.
I have,
comment?
I have concerns about, having 2 shifts of judges, a morning and an afternoon with a 175 cat limit. I mean, that means that assuming the people in the morning do in fact finish in the morning and the people in the afternoon do in fact start after them, you're going to need time to judge 350 cats. I think that's too much. I think we should set a cap on the entry at a little bit lower than that. I think that even assuming that the people in the morning get done on time and don't interfere with the judges in the afternoon, somebody's going to be blowing through cats pretty quickly to get through 175 cats in half a day.
Okay, thank you, George. Mike?
Yeah, I just wanted to address that a little bit. I mean, Sharon addressed the change just to make sure everybody's clear on the idea that this is not a situation where the afternoon judges would have to wait for the morning judges to be done. There will be an overlap. There will be a period of time, we presume, when there will be 8 rings going at one time. So I don't disagree that it's a lot of cats, but it's not quite as bad as the same as having to do the equivalent of 350 cats potentially.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Kathy Dunham?
Yeah, I just was gonna kind of say the same thing Mike did. I worked with Heidi on a proposed judges schedule for this format. And we had the first 4 judges starting at 8:30 in the morning. They would be taking a break at 11:30, wherever they're at in their show schedule. She plans on doing some kind of entertainment for her spectators, whether that's a costume contest or stuffed animals. And then the morning judges and afternoon judges would start again at noon and continue. And hopefully the morning judges would only have a few cats and maybe a final to finish. And the afternoon judges would then have the cats available to judge them as they needed to. She's very, very adamant that this limit needs to be 175. But she is also very adamant that she is going to save a significant amount of money on having a 1-day show versus having to spend money on 2 days for show hall rental, multiple nights of hotel stays for judges. She's looking at trying to save the club some money, but providing the service to the exhibitors on the West Coast that's needed. Thanks.
Pam Delabar?
As a judge, I have always used a yardstick of 30 cats per hour, and that would take in pit stops, figuring out finals, presenting finals, etc. At 175 cats, that's like 6 hours worth of judging at that point in time. This becomes an Olympic event. We're not judging, we're passing cats across the table. I'm not even going to say anything about a cat being handled the possibility of 16 times during the day, which I do not believe is good. One of the things that we have a problem with is people are saying they don't have the contact with other people at the shows that we started to go down when we first authorized the 1-day 6-ring show, because people are in and out. This is just for awards. I find this objectionable, and I'm sorry, Sharon, I cannot support this.
Okay, Sharon?
Yeah, this is kind of to address some of the things. One of the things that Heidi did impress on me was by having the break for lunch, that everybody's going to break. It does give them a little bit of time to have some socialization while everybody's having lunch together. That's the first thing. I did suggest 150 cats originally. She was very adamant that she needed the 175 cat limit to break even. But having 1 day would save the club about $3,000 to $4,000 in rental and various other things. You know what? My biggest fear is like the 6-ring show all of a sudden became a 6x6. I do fear that we'll start having people ask for an 8x8. But otherwise, you know what? Unless we try something, we'll never know whether it's good or bad. That's all.
Pam Mosier?
Yes, Pam Delabar has said so many things that I feel. But also, I would say there would have to be parameters set around the show. This is very vague. It doesn't do that. The excessive handling, I have a big concern. After all, that is what we're about, the welfare of the cats. I mean, this would be a contest of zipping through the cats, hardly touching the judging table. Along with that, you know, and just want to say that our region needs shows. We don't have that many shows. We have probably 6 to 7. So I'm not talking against this because I don't want another show. We need another show. But the way this is put together, I have objections to. Plus, Heidi's never put on a show. So putting on an 8-ring show as her first show, this would be, I think, way too much. I mean, I've been doing this for 50 years, and I myself would be hesitant to put on a show like this. I could maybe do it with 100 entries to 125, but not as my first time show. I encourage Heidi to put on a show, but do it in the regular way, because we do need more shows, but not as a first time experimental show with 8 rings. Thank you.
Melanie?
Thank you. I'm all for experimental formats. I think most of you probably know that, and for trying new things. But first and foremost, CFA is about the health and welfare of all cats. I think that we started to push that when we went to the 6-ring show, where cats go from ring to ring to ring and potentially go into 12 rings in a day. To take this to 8 rings, in my mind, goes right back to what Pam Delabar was saying, which is, you know, this becomes all about the points and very little about the cats. I have a major problem with that. I'm very sensitive to the fact that clubs are hurting and it's difficult to put on shows, and we need to come up with ways to save money, but we can't do it at the expense of our cats. I find it somewhat disturbing. I agree with Pam on that as well, that we're focusing so much on that end result and forgetting about where we're coming from. I don't think this is a good idea in any sense of the word. As much as I love to see us trying new things, this is not the kind of new way to approach it in my mind.
Okay, Annette?
Thanks. I won't take a lot of time. I agree with Pam and Melanie. We're not thinking about the cats here at all. Even in a 6-ring 1-day show, the cats are wiped out at the end of the day. The kittens are all asleep. It just doesn't make any sense to me. If you can get 175 entries or 150 or even 125 for an 8-ring show, you can get it for a 6-ring show. Have more 6-ring shows, or have one club put on a 6-ring show or a 5-ring show or a 4-ring show on Saturday, and another club put it on Sunday at the same venue. There's all sorts of options. My question though is, I don't understand this point about 350 entries. Am I missing something here? it says if the show gets 175 entries, that means each shared ring could see up to 350 entries. This has 175 limit, right? For the whole day.
That's correct, Annette.
Okay,
However,
I'm just-
in the
thank you.
original proposal, it was going to split the rings, meaning there would be 4 rings in the morning, and the 4 rings in the morning would convert to the 4 rings in the evening. So I think the point was 350 entries would go through a 4-ring process. I think that's what they're trying to get to. It's still 175 entries.
Total kids. Okay, thank you.
I don't
That's
know
all.
that.
I can't support this, and I think it should be strongly discouraged.
Okay, thank you. John?
I noticed there's no mentioning of what format. How many specialty rings are they having? I think at some point there will be a problem getting cats. It'll be bottleneck. I'm not for this at all. Another thing, I don't think it get done by 6 p.m. More like 8, if we're lucky. Thank you.
Okay, Mark?
Yeah, they talk about a 1-hour break, and I've been at shows that's planned 1-hour breaks, and it's never happened. You know, if you're going to break at noon, judges are going to have some cats in their rings. They're not going to stop in the middle of a class. They're going to say, no, I want to finish the cats that are in my ring. And that could go on for another 15 minutes or something. And when we had ring sharing in the past, we limited it to 125 entries. And granted, this is not ring sharing, but I think 175 is not realistic. I mean, I don't even know if she's going to get 175, maybe 8 rings in one day. And it being the first time it's tried, is going to be an incentive for more people to enter. But I think 175 is unrealistic.
Carol?
Yes, I agree with many of the comments that went before. The cats and their welfare should be our primary concern. I am really concerned about the amount of handling that a cat could potentially see. I mean, if a cat was a good cat and made all the finals, you're talking about 16 handlings. Unless they don't take the cats out for finals, but still the cat would have to be taken to the ring for the finals. So that's handling in a sense. And plus scheduling conflicts, and I just don't see it being over until maybe even 9 o'clock at night. We have 6-ring shows that have gone, 6-ring one-day shows that have gone on till 7 o'clock and sometimes a little bit later. So I just cannot support this at all.
Okay, Kathy? Calhoun?
Yeah, I don't support this either. And I think one of the things that Heidi may be banking on is that this is going to reduce the number of days that she has to contract the show hall. But in fact, if the shows run till 8 or 9 o'clock at night, that show's not going to get torn down till the next day. So you're still going to have some liability in the way of rental for 2 days. So primarily, I think this is bad for the cats, and the scheduling would be a nightmare. And I don't really think it's going to achieve the economics that she's hoping for.
Okay, Sharon, we do not have a formal motion and it's not second. Do you want to make a formal motion?
Okay, well, the motion is to allow a 1-day 8-ring, a 1-day 8-ring show. Split ring, well, it's no longer a split ring format. Allowing a 1-day 8-ring show, and this includes 4 rings that start in the morning and 4 rings in the afternoon with 175 cat limit.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second it, Rich.
Okay, Kathy Dunham, thank you. We debated this pretty good. Is there any further discussion before I call the vote? Okay, I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Sharon Roy, Kathy Dunham. Please lower your hand. All those opposed, raise your hand. Okay, Carol Krasnowski, Mark Hannon, Melanie Morgan, George Eigenhauser, Pam Mosier, Pam Delabar, Russell Webb, Paula Noble, Kenny Curley, Yukika Hayata, John Kalila, Rachel Anger, Annette Wilson, Kathy Calhoun. Please lower your hand. Any abstentions? Mike Shelton. Rachel, will you announce the vote, please?
That's 14 yes, sorry, 2 yes, 14 no, 1 abstention.
Okay, the motion failed. Sorry, Sharon. Shelley?
That's okay. That's okay. I was asked to bring it forward. So,
Yep.
and thank you, Kathy Dunham, for helping her write it up, please.
Okay, Shelley?
Sorry for my technical difficulties, but I had a car wreck hit the power pole by my house about 3 minutes before this meeting started. And so I'm using my iPad, but the battery is running low when I have no power to charge it. So I'm going to go back to my phone at some point when this dies. So if Aline could keep watch for that, that would be great.
I will.
Thank you, Shelley. Okay, Sharon, do you have anything else on experimental format?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our next order of business is Rachel, is it Every Cat Health Foundation?
Correct. The clerking program was moved to executive session.
Okay. And the Special Investigation Committee, that was pulled because there was 2 of them submitted?
That's correct.
Okay, very good. George, do you have anything you want to review?
There's no action items. I just want to highlight 2 things for the benefit of the people listening in. The 2 big news items are that Kathy Calhoun has been elected to the Every Cat board and is in fact our new treasurer. And the other item I think most people will be interested in knowing is that our symposium will be returning to the CFA annual meeting in 2023. Other than that, I'm just here to answer questions.
George, thank you for sharing that information, and Kathy, congratulations. Does anybody have any questions for George? Okay, no questions. Our next order of business is Carol, CFA Foundation.
Yes, this is basically just an update on what's been happening, mostly with the museum. We did have a Zoom meeting for the CFA Foundation Board on July 29th. It was rather productive. We have another one planned for late September. That's really all I have. If anyone has questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Pam Delabar.
As an addition to the report, we do have one of our foundation board members that's going to be coming in, has volunteered to come in and keep the museum open for a week until we can get Karen back into the States. Of course, Karen Lawrence is the director of the Feline Historical Museum. So we will have some limited openings that are planned right now. I don't have a schedule, but that was one thing that came out of the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Carol, do you have anything else?
No, I have nothing else. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next order of business is other committees. Rachel, do you have anything on other committees?
Nothing was submitted.
Okay. And new business, I believe we have 2 items under new business, and they are Mark Hannon's pre-noticed motions that were submitted with at least 24 hours to the board.
Correct. Item A has been withdrawn, the future Pittsburgh Pet Expo.
Okay, great. Thank you. Guys, I do see the line crossed off on the agenda. Thank you. All right. So Mark, let's move into your two motions, and if you would, please state each one, and we'll do one at a time.
I don't have it in front of me. I'll ask Rachel to read it.
Okay. Rachel, you're on mute.
Thank you. Eileen is using an older version of the compiled reports. I would have to reboot my computer to go access them. Oh, no, I can do it from my email. It'll take me a minute. I was not prepared for this. I apologize.
Nice. That was, okay.
Right.
Is it in File Vista, Rachel? I can pull it from there.
Yes,
Let's see.
it
That's
is.
quick. Okay.
Mark, from memory, the first motion was accepting James into attending all board meetings, including closed session.
Yes,
Okay, I don't have the exact wording in front of me.
I don't either, but that's the gist of it. Maybe Rachel can find it and read it to us.
Okay, Kathy Calhoun. You're on mute.
Sorry.
I do have the motion.
Okay.
Why don't you read it, Rachel?
That James Simbro be permitted to attend all closed session board meetings. The rationale, it is important that there be two people from central office with knowledge of closed session discussions. In the past, we had both the executive director and deputy director attend. We no longer have a deputy director, but James is considered the second in command. A year ago, it was decided that James should not attend.
Okay, so Mark Hannon made the motion to the board via email within 24 hours prior to the meeting. Do I have a second?
George seconds.
Okay, George, thank you. Kathy, you had your hand up. Did you have some information you wanted to share?
No, it's about the second one.
Okay,
Sorry.
all right. Does anybody have any comments or questions on Mark's motion? Are there any objections to Mark's motion? Seeing no objections, Mark's motion passes unanimously. James, you will be permitted to attend all closed session board meetings.
Sounds good.
Okay, Mark?
The second one was a recommendation from Shelley Perkins, and she can't make a motion, so I made the motion on her behalf. Rachel, do you have that?
It's on the screen. Do you see that?
Okay.
Mark, can you read that for the record?
Anyone that regularly attends closed session meetings shall sign a confidentiality agreement that states they will keep closed session material private if they're not a board member. Do you want me to read the rationale?
Let me have a second.
George will second.
Okay, George, thank you. Go ahead, Mark.
This motion is made in an effort to maintain the sanctity of closed sessions as private and confidential. The word quote unquote regularly was used so that people who are appearing for a specific discussion are not required to sign an agreement, but only those who are attending, such as Eileen and anyone from the central office, etc.
Okay, any questions or comments for Mark? Kathy?
I did have a question, and I support this wholeheartedly, but I wondered the last phrase, if they are not a board member. Even if they were a board member, you have to sign a confidentiality agreement. So is that necessary?
This was following up on James being allowed to participate and attend closed session. So my assumption is that we're talking about James and people in his situation that would be attending regularly.
Kathy, allow me to share some additional information on this. Shelley, Eileen, and myself also did a little work on this in terms of non-board members signing confidentiality agreements, including employees and or contractors. And Eileen gave us some information today that employees do sign the handbook, which includes confidentiality agreement, but what they're signing is not specific to a confidentiality agreement. It's the handbook overall. So I believe it makes sense that any non-board member attending closed session meetings, such as James, Aline, Shelley, the ID rep, and the China rep should sign a confidentiality agreement because they're not signing the board agreement or the board oath agreement. Shelley, do I have that somewhat close to your interpretation of what should be done? You're on mute, Shelley.
Okay. Yes.
We didn't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me at all? Because I have it off mute.
Yes.
Okay, so yes, I agree, you got it right.
Okay, thank you. Aline, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I don't.
Okay, so that was the rationale behind following through and allowing that last section to remain in. Does anybody else have any other questions or comments on the motion? Does anybody have any objections to the motion? Okay, seeing no objections, the motion carries unanimously. James, you will need to sign a confidentiality agreement, and Aline is in the process of carving one out if she hasn't done so already.
Okay, not a problem.
Okay, thank you. Okay, continuing on. Let's see. Old business. Rachel, do we have anything under old business that you're aware of?
Nothing has been submitted.
Does anybody else have anything old business that wasn't submitted that you'd like to bring up? Okay, I want to thank everybody for attending, the attendees and all of the board members and non-board members attending as participants. I'm going to adjourn the meeting, and I have 9